Welcome everybody. My name's Lyle Wells. I'm here to talk today about business plans. I'm really focused on the why, the how, and the when in a practical sense, and how this would apply to you or to me if I was involved in my own startup or my own new venture. So without further ado, I'm just going to get straight into it. So a little bit about me. Um, it's potentially a little bit conceited to talk about yourself at the start of your presentation, but I want to give some context to why I chose this particular subject. I swapped to this subject. Thank you, Michael, for letting me do that a couple of weeks into the unit, because business plans are something that I've got some experience with, and not all of it's been good. So perhaps my experience can actually lend some credibility to some of the things I'm going to talk about. Then again, perhaps not. But I ran my own business 20 years ago in Perth. I had an ISP, and it was really quite successful at the start. Um, but my lack of strategy, my lack of planning, and my lack of foresight actually resulted in me barely getting out of that business with my shirt on my back and my sanity in the end, and a lot of effort and blood, sweat, and tears. So after I got out of that, I actually went into the federal government, and I've been very successful there in my career in federal government. Um, I've actually set up some internal business units in the Department of Human Services. The last 2 years I spent setting up a directorate to do with critical situation management or emergency management inside of the Department of Human Services, which has been very successful. So I've read a lot of business plans and I've actually written and executed my own. It ended up with me being headhunted to the NDIA, where I've recently moved. Actually, as I'm writing this, I'm actually moving my career there right now. Um, so I've got some good and some bad, and I'm just going to go through some of these things now. So this brings me to the aims of this particular presentation. So I'm really looking to provide an extension of the course content rather than, regurgitate or just make clarifications of the same point from the text and the readings that Michael's provided. I mean, Michael was quite clear on, extending the course content rather than regurgitating it, so I'm going to make sure I do that. The angle I took was to, as much as possible, give a practical application to the actual course content. The course content's pretty heavy when it comes to business plans. Um, there's literally thousands of books and thousands of documents out there about business plans and the right way to write them. I know that there's probably still worldwide competitions on, every year they have academic competitions on who can write the best business plan. Um, so there's a lot of documents out there about how to actually write a business plan. The text has got a wonderful table. I think it's 16.2 where it articulates, I think, 12 or 13 different segments and what you should put in those segments and detailed. We've certainly had a look at it in RCLN for our business plan. Um, but I want to go a little bit beyond that. And just talk about sort of, I guess, real world scenarios. Not that the content isn't real world scenarios, but what people will actually use, could actually use, do actually use in the real world to get these documents and why they get them. And I want to draw attention to some emerging research that I found that I thought was particularly important, wasn't discussed in the content as well during the course content. So that's my take on this. I hope you enjoy it, and I'm going to continue to move forward. This brings me to the why. So right here, I want to discuss the values and benefits of you doing a business plan. And the first part of that is for the structured analysis. And that's really for you, right? That's for the person who's running the business. The greatest benefit for having that structured analysis is to ensure that you actually haven't left something out in the fine details because you're not strong in that area or you're not aware that you actually need to think about these things. By having that business plan and going through that structured analysis will actually ensure that you've actually put the required thought and homework into all areas of your business as a rounded endeavor. That you're just not getting sucked down particular rabbit holes because that's your strength or because that's actually what you're focused on, just your product. The second part of it is for others really, is to obtain finance or attracted investors, or to build confidence and legitimacy from your stakeholders. And stakeholders could be employers, they could be, business partners, they could be suppliers. But having that well-rounded document that you can actually, publicize It shows them that you've actually put the required thought into all aspects of your startup or your new adventure, and not just in the product that you're trying to sell. And just, yeah, and this is also was in the content, but there are some opposing views on the value of this, and this, it's obviously worthwhile to be aware that there are opposing views to creating a business plan. I think it's Cremides, maybe that's just the Greek pronunciation, has said don't do it unless you know why and what you're trying to achieve. So you need to know the purpose, because there's obviously a fair bit of effort in doing one. And McClure, he's quite strong opinions on that, and that's I think the angel investor guys who's been involved with over 500 startups, and his opinion is business plans for startups are usually not worth the effort. So it's worthwhile knowing that they are, contradictory views out there. So this brings me to the how, and I want to look at some practical methods of actually constructing your document. So I'm not going to go into all the details of what you should have in there. That's covered fairly well in the course content, particularly that table 16.2, or you can look at, I think it's Salman's different approach that he actually divides up into 4 categories. I'm not going to regurgitate that either. I just want to break this down into 3 basic ways of doing your document. The first one is bespoke. You open up a Word document or Google Docs or whatever you feel like. You're well educated, you know what should be in there, you've got some sort of idea of all the sections, you've done your homework, and you just handcraft your plan. Obviously, you need the right skills to be able to articulate yourself well. You might already have an MBA, you might be experienced, but you can handcraft and handwrite your document. Other people might not be so skilled in those areas. They still need their document. So they might go and use a template, and there's interactive pro formas where you fill in the box on the web. I wouldn't be a good government employee if I didn't suggest business.gov.au has templates there that you can actually use. And if you're so inclined, I'm not, but if you're so inclined, you can use freelance assistance and get someone to write your plan for you, such as Fiverr.com or something like that. Again, I wouldn't suggest that, but I do have it there because people do. And the last part, or the third different way you can have this done, is there's actually a lot of software and apps out there that can actually help you to actually put this together. So they're interactive and intuitive apps that have been designed just for this thing in purpose. A lot of them seem to be designed for iPad. Don't know if that suggests a lot of people these days run their business just from their iPad. The benefit of using an app is that they're reviewed and rated. There are actually a lot of apps that are specifically for certain types of business. They've been built that way, so they can help people ensure they're covering all the right things. They're reviewed and rated. And they often have integrations. So, for example, if you're using a finance application such as Quicken or MYOB, some of these are actually integrated, so they can actually do your forward projections and all your finance and your business plan according to what you've used for other software applications. So that's helpful for some people in the real world. So this brings us to when. How important is timing to your business plan? We know in business that timing is everything. But how does this apply to a business plan? Some research I discovered from Green and Hobb answers some of these questions. It was presented last year, and it provides some metrics on the construction time and the total effort to get the best possible chance of success from your business plan. Some of the early observations were that creating a business plan too early could potentially create a fable. That is, an untrue account of what the actual new endeavor would actually look like. So we talked there about being able to be agile enough to capture the new opportunity. And if you create a business plan with a preconceived idea of those opportunities, then perhaps you might get an intellectual lock-in, and that means becoming biased towards that plan, and that's particularly bad when it's a fable and doesn't represent what the actual business is going to end up being. And also, you've got to understand there's an opportunity cost that comes with this planning effort. So the amount of effort that you put into creating this plan early in the piece could also mean that you'll miss those opportunities when they do arrive. So the research showed that you had an 8% improved chance of success if the plan was completed between the 6-month and the 12-month mark after the start of your business activities. It also showed that you had a 12% improved chance of success if you put 3 months worth of effort. More effort than that was futile. It wasn't necessary. It showed no improvement after the 3-month mark. And by combining your construction time and your total effort, that would actually mean that you had a 27% chance of success if you hit this sweet spot, whereas 6 to 12 months of startup business activities and 3 months of effort. Moving on from timings, it's probably now appropriate that I talk about the review phase, just to complete my practical view on business plans. So we've talked about the why, we've talked about the how, we've talked about the when, and it's probably now important to talk about the and then. So this is keeping your business plan up to date, ensuring that it remains a live document and that it actually looks at your business as it is today and not as it was at the beginning of your venture when you're actually a little bit further down the road. So I've got actually two articles here on this slide, and the first one is by a business and accounting firm that's DFK and this is just their list of different phases of your business where they've recommended that you should review your business plan if you haven't done already. That is establishment, growth, expansion, maturity, and the decline or sale. So moving through the life cycle of a normal business structure. As I said, it's just indicative, nothing sort of set in stone. The second one on the right hand side is a planning cycle map, and the sources below. That's more applicable usually to sort of project management, but it's a good sort of map, I suppose, or a good diagram to represent the actual planning cycle itself and how that can actually apply to your business plan. So we move through from the analysis of the opportunity, identifying your current aims, exploring your options, selecting your best options, detailed planning, evaluating your plan, implementing whatever your current plan is, close the plan and feedback. But in probably that closure part of that loop there, you want to feedback and just reinvigorate your plan more than actually close your plan off and consider it a done deal. Finally, just to recap my practical look at business plans, I just want to give some recommendations. And first of all, failing to plan really is planning to fail. I can talk from personal experience. If I go back and look at my own endeavor 20 years ago, I really did come undone because there was quite a few elements of the business that I wasn't sufficiently aware of or I didn't plan for. I'm just going to address one of the readings for this unit, which was the Salmon reading, and he talks about addressing the elements of success. I think that's probably the takeout for me for the reading that I did during this unit. Was I wasn't so caught up on the structure and making sure that I ticked off every box in table 16.2, even though I did like the structure provided. I was really focused on that particular article, and that particular line from that article was address the elements of success and do that part well. And he broke that down into the 4 components. Thirdly, there are a variety of resources available, and I've presented some of these today and things that can help you in doing a business plan. I mean, we talk about this at the moment. This is obviously we're at uni, and this is an academic endeavor that we're pursuing right now. But in real life, I think it's worthwhile to actually explore everything at your fingertips. Time is precious for the entrepreneur. So use some of the things that are available on the market, and the world changes quite quickly. And finally, review your business plan. It's not a set and forget document. It absolutely has to represent and reflect what you're actually trying to achieve. It's an important document, and your stakeholders will rely on that document to understand where you're moving to as a business and what your vision is. It's got to be connected. Thank you, everybody. I hope you got something out of it. I have a list of references on the next slide. I'm not going to go through those. Enjoy the rest of the unit. Thank you.